We're joined today by 17-year-old Rishan Patel, who is the founder and CEO of sports equity nonprofit called Alley Oop Kids that works to build lockers full of sports equipment and reaches out to essentially the underprivileged, including those in India. Now, the reason, of course, Rishan Patel has set a new milestone and inspired many among him is because he's already won several awards globally for this initiative. Thank you for joining us, Rishan. And of course, begin by taking us through who or what inspired you for this idea.
Yeah, so I always loved playing sports. When I was younger, I always watched sports with my dad and my brother. And my brother always played sports. And if you're a younger sibling and you have an older sibling, you know that you kind of just want to follow your older sibling. And so he always played basketball. So I always played basketball kind of behind him. That really just sort of started to develop this passion for basketball and passion for sports in general, really. And I was kind of a shy kid, kindergarten, first grade, 6, 7 years old. But I slowly found my voice through sports, and I found a community and a lot of confidence through sports. So I think that's really what kind of sparked that passion in me. And then I think, in relating to this actual project, I would have these basketball tournaments, almost every weekend, and I would see these kids playing without the proper sports equipment. So it was really important to me to do something about it because I saw that and it didn't seem right to me. So I decided to take initiative and research a little bit more and see that hey, this is really a problem, and figure out a way to solve that. And my way of solving that was through the lending lockers.
And at what age did you really start brainstorming this and discussing it with family?
Yeah, so I was 15 years old and I started. I really just talked to my mom about it. Just like I saw this inequity a few years ago and slowly started to accumulate in my head. And one idea kind of connected with the others, and yeah, so I was around 15 years old, just really just talking to my mom, having normal conversation. We came up with this model, and now it is what it is today.
All right, wonderful. Now, for those watching in India, could you take them through the milestones achieved so far?
Yeah, so we have globally we have 130 over 130 lockers, which means we've reached over 100,000 kids. And in India specifically, we have over 60 lockers, excuse me, which means we've reached over 50,000 kids through. We have multiple organizations we work with in India, multiple NGOs. Magic Bus and Empower Her who have been two really helpful partners in kind of connecting us with the right schools and in rural Indian areas where a lot of kids don't have the proper access to sports, and to actually get the equipment to them. We have family and relatives that run Boston Sports, which is a sports equipment manufacturing company, which really allowed us to kind of get that equipment to the right kids who need it.
So your plans that started at age 15 actually got into implementation by the time you were 16.
It was still 15 years old. I came up with the idea a couple of weeks later, kind of just launched it, just decided to just go through with it. That's something I really value for me is just kind of going into it and just not being scared because I knew there was going to be challenges, which, for me ended up being we changed our model around from being more manually, we used to manually install each locker at each school. And now we kind of change it to a more scalable model, which makes it easier to reach, kids in India, which we never would have imagined initially. But I started at 15, just a couple weeks after the idea.
Oh, okay. So that was rapid implementation. And just to decode lockers, for our viewers, if you could take them through lockers for sports equipment, just decode that phrase for them.
Yeah, so lending lockers are real lockers full of sports equipment that we install at under-resourced schools and organizations all around the globe. And the equipment we install is anything from, cricket bats to footballs. Any type of equipment that any school needs, we try to cater to.
All right. And could you quantify this for me globally, the number of schools, colleges that you've managed to reach out to, and also the expansion plans going forward?
Yeah, so we have over 130 lockers installed globally. Again, over 65 of those are in India now. And Magic Bus and Empower Her again have been really, really helpful in finding these right schools. Because for me, obviously I live here in America. I didn't know that much about where the right is to install these lockers in India. Obviously, I knew what type of schools, the rural areas, the villages, and whatnot. But I think that definitely, so Magic Bus and Empower have been really helpful that way.
Right.
So in our expansion plans, I think moving forward with them and continuing to find these schools that they sponsor and that they find in these rural areas and villages that I'm still, I don't know so much about still. I'm trying to get as much of education as possible. Um, it's definitely still new to me in that sense, but that's kind of our plan for moving forward in India, is to continue using them and to continue reaching out to other organizations in India that can help us, get the equipment to the kids who need it.
Right. Of these 65 schools in India that you mentioned, could you take us through geographically where most of them are located?
It's kind of general, but it says, what we've seen is a lot in Mumbai, which is where Magic Bus is located, is where they're founded at least.
Right.
Um, so yeah, I think most of them are in Mumbai right now, but we're trying to expand to as much as possible around all of India.
Right. When you were just starting out, just for our viewers to know the moments that you face challenges, and take us through the moments that you enjoyed working on this process and your passion.
Yeah, so as far as challenges, I think there's definitely a lot of hiccups along the way. Again, I'm still in high school, so I don't know that much, and I obviously have a increasingly busy life. But I think that a main challenge for me again was this model change from going from manually installing each locker, which meant me and my friends would literally go build the shed and fill it with the sports equipment, which would sometimes take 2-3 hours just for one locker. And so that was a challenge, kind of brainstorming, how can I make this a scalable model, and how can I make this something where we can install it to as many schools as possible and as many places as possible.
Right.
And now that we have them, in India, it's just like I never would have imagined that we could get lockers all the way out there. And so definitely, that was definitely a hurdle. It was figuring out how we can make this a model where we can expand geographically into as many kids as possible. But I mean, now we're at a point where the process is so kind of, it kind of runs itself, and I think that it's a lot easier now to reach as many schools and communities as possible because our name is bigger. So we have organizations reaching out to us, and again, we're still working with organizations like Magic Bus and whatnot, which make it really a lot easier than it was at the beginning. And so I've really enjoyed kind of just working with these big organizations and seeing how passionate they are about sports and really just serving the community as well.
Right. Take us through the number of team members that you're essentially working with.
So basically, I run most of the stuff. My mom helps me kind of I call her my momager, like a manager. So she kind of just runs some emails and stuff like that, make sure I'm not missing anything. But it's really just me and her running it. And then I always have friends that are always happy to help out in any way possible. So I would say it's around 5 people.
About 5 people. All right. You mentioned high school, and of course, just the balancing act of following your passion and, of course, studying at the moment. Did you at any point find this tough and say, you know what, maybe this can wait for later? What kept you going?
100%. I definitely had doubts and like thoughts of, hey, I should just focus on what I'm myself right now. But I think at the end of the day, it's just the passion for sports and the fact that I see this problem kind of live. And then also now that we're expanded geographically, it's, relating to me personally with India, it's part of my heritage. I feel like it's just not right to just leave kids without sports equipment and just not keep pushing forward. So I think it's definitely, become a priority in my life, just kind of serving others. And I think that's, definitely comes from my Indian heritage and also just my passion for sports.
That's lovely. Your message to those who don't have access to, just the knowledge of the fact that you're someone with a platform offering such resources, the digital divide essentially in rural India. So, how do you think we can bridge that? And your message to those who at the moment who may not be as aware of a platform such as yours?
Yeah, I think that for sure. I think a lot of people, it goes unnoticed that kids don't have the proper equipment because you see the kids that are playing and that do have the equipment, but oftentimes there's more kids that actually don't and that end up not playing sports. And so as a result of not having the equipment, they don't play sports, and then you don't get to see them, and you don't think it's a problem. But I think just for everyone to know, around the world, wherever it is, there's definitely a lack of sports equipment in particular, and just a lack of sports inequity in general, really. Globally here in the United States, obviously in India as well. And so, yeah, my message to them would just be to notice that there are kids that don't have the proper equipment, and to help do anything they can to help.
Right. Now, cricket, of course, is big in India, and other sports are, of course, finding their voice and finding their feet. But, any plans working with any academies, any expansion plans in India or South Asia in particular going forward?
Yeah, it's kind of a general sort of expansion plan we have in terms of India, but again, kind of utilizing our connections that we already have in India with the organizations we've worked with. I think that's our kind of tactic is just push out and continue to communicate and keep a relationship with them, and continue to reach out to other organizations in India. Because eventually, my goal would be to just as many schools as possible with sports equipment, whether that be cricket equipment or whatever type of equipment they really want, we can cater to it. So I think that just kind of reaching as many schools as possible, and just trying our best to network is really our goal.
Right. Lastly, Rishan, your message to those your age globally, and of course, the fact that finding your voice or following your passion, what it took for you and how you can continue to inspire many around.
Yeah. So I mean, my message to kids who are equally as passionate about me is about whatever. I think everyone has their own passion, but um, for me personally, I think the message would be to follow your passion, whether that be sports, whether that be music, something else. Just follow your passion. And, there's going to be hurdles along the way, and eventually you'll see probably some sort of inequity or some problem within your field. As I saw with sports, and just follow your passion and try your best to solve those problems. And if you follow your passion, you'll end up being successful in one way or another. That's my
All right. Wishing you the very best and to many more milestones, Rishan. Thank you for this interaction.
Thank you.